name. A horror story. This is The Haunted House. Episode 10, The Town Feast. It had been 5 days since the disappearances started. 5 days since people from Oak Haven began vanishing, without a trace, leaving behind only whispers and unease. To escape the growing dread, Maria Ramirez had sought solace in her garden tending, to the herbs and vegetables that had become her sanctuary. In her small patch of earth, she found moments of peace, if only because she could pretend that life outside those green borders continued as normal. But today, even that illusion shattered. Her husband, Luis, stood in the doorway, his face creased with worry. "Maria, we must talk." He stepped into the garden, and his gaze fell on the vibrant sunflowers. Taller than him, heavier than any oak tree in the forest. Your sunflowers, they've grown too tall. There are strange symbols in the middle of the flowers. Symbols I do not want to read aloud. Maria felt a chill despite the summer heat. They knew what these signs meant, what they always meant. The house was hungry. In the face of such evil, neighbors had retreated to their own homes, barricading themselves inside. But now the house had come for Maria and her 2 children. First to go was little Danny Hayes. His mother had refused to lock her doors, convinced the rumors were unfounded. But when dawn arrived and Danny didn't return from his paper route, she realized the truth. She screamed his name until her voice was hoarse, until the sun dipped below the horizon, offering no answers, only shadows. The entire town was consumed by fear, and even the sheriff seemed helpless. He urged everyone to stay indoors, to wait it out. But how long is everyone? How long before the house takes everything? That night, huddled around a candle, Maria shared her plan with Luis. They would leave Oak Haven, abandon the home she and her parents had built, their lives here. It was terrifying, but better than waiting for whatever the house wanted to take. The next morning, they packed. Bags lay abandoned on the kitchen floor, their contents spilling out like their hopes. But the door wouldn't open. No matter how many times they rattled the knob or shouted, the front door was locked, bolted from the other side. Terror lent speed to Maria's movements. She broke a window, climbed through, ignoring the shards digging into her arms. As she stumbled through the undergrowth, she heard Anna and Diego calling for her, their voices laced with terror. She spun around, desperate to help them, but couldn't find her children anywhere. With shaking hands, she pushed open the back door, stepping into a shadowy world that smelled of damp earth and decay. She walked past cobwebs thick enough to strangle a man, past suits of armor that glinted with malevolent glee, each one a silent testament to the house's deadly embrace. She followed the sound of her children's voices, which led her to a grand hall illuminated by flickering torches. At the far end, silhouetted against a roaring fire, sat Anna and Diego, their faces pale in the flickering light. Relief flooded Maria, quickly followed by confusion. How had they escaped the house? Had it let them go? Before she could question them further, Luis entered the hall, his face etched with urgency. "We have to go. Now." He pulled Maria toward the stairs. "There's a secret passage in the library. We can hide there." They raced up the stairs, pushing open the heavy oak doors of the library. Ancient books lined the walls, their leather covers worn smooth by countless hands. Behind a towering bookshelf stood a dark opening, barely visible. Maria and Luis exchanged a quick glance. There was nowhere else to go. They had to try. Taking a deep breath, Maria entered first, followed by Luis. The passage was narrow, the air stale and cold, but it offered a sliver of hope, a chance to escape the clutches of the house. Just ahead, they saw a flicker of light. Scrambling forward, they found themselves in a small, dusty room. Hope surged through them. Maybe they could hide here. Maybe they could survive. And then they heard the sound that froze their blood. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate footsteps approaching their hiding place. They were trapped, and whatever was coming for them was almost here. The footsteps stopped right outside the secret room. Silence followed, heavy and suffocating, broken only by their ragged breaths. Then the doorknob turned slowly, creaking on its hinges. A single ray of light sliced through the gloom, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air. Whatever was outside the door had entered the room, its presence pressing against them, heavy and cold. Maria closed her eyes, squeezing Luce's hand. Together they waited for whatever horror was about to unfold. From behind them, a raspy voice cut through the silence. Found you. A gust of icy air washed over them. They couldn't turn around. They didn't want to see what stood behind them, what had found them. But the creature kept talking. So you're the ones who snuck into my house. The little family that ran from the feast. The voice dripped with mockery. Maria and Luis exchanged a terrified look. The feast. The mention of the feast sent a chill down their spines. They had managed to escape the house, hadn't they? Why would it speak of a feast now? And what did it mean? The creature chuckled, a dry, rustling sound like leaves crunching underfoot. Don't you recognize me? After all we've shared. It took another step closer, its presence looming over them, blocking the sliver of light from the door. Come now, don't you remember our last supper together? The joy, the music, the anticipation. The creature paused. Do you, Nicholas? The voice was suddenly sharp, filled with a menacing edge. I thought you'd remember. It pains me that you forget. Maria and Louis stared at each other, their eyes wide with dawning horror. Slowly, painstakingly, they turned to face the creature. Standing before them was a gaunt woman with hollowed cheeks and eyes that burned with an eerie, otherworldly light. Her skin was stretched tight over her bones, and her limbs were impossibly thin. A cruel smile twisted her lips, revealing teeth that were too sharp, too numerous. It was her, Lady Ashford. The missing persons from Oak Haven had all attended the so-called town feast hosted by the enigmatic Lord and Lady Ashford in their sprawling mansion on the edge of town. All of them except for Maria and Louise had eaten and danced at the feast, drawn in by promises of good food and camaraderie. Only they had refused the invitation, choosing instead to stay in the safety of their home. Now Lady Ashford stood before them, her smile widening, and Maria recognized the hunger in her eyes. It wasn't just food she craved. It was souls. The creature shuffled closer, its rotting flesh almost touching them. It's time to join the feast, my dears. You can't hide forever. The house always gets what it wants. She leaned in close, her voice a raspy whisper. And this house is ravenous. Before Maria and Louise could react, Lady Ashford lunged. She was upon them in an instant, her grip like iron, with a strength that belied her frail appearance. She dragged them from the secret room, down the stairs, and into the grand hall where a sumptuous feast awaited. In the center of it all, Lord Ashford sat at the head of a massive table laden with exotic foods. Beside him stood a grinning jester, his bells jingling merrily. Around them were empty chairs, dozens of them, each bearing a name card with the likeness of one of Oak Haven's missing. "Welcome to the feast," boomed Lord Ashford, his voice echoing through the hall. "I do hope you enjoyed the little performance. It's one we've been practicing for quite some time." Maria and Louise struggled against Lady Ashford's grasp, but it was futile. Her grip tightened, her eyes gleaming with triumph. "You were very late to the party," rasped Lady Ashford, her voice dripping with mock politeness. "But then you always were rather slow, weren't you, Nicholas?" "Maria, come now, sit, eat, stay." With a final, sickening smile, she dragged them to their seats at the table. Lord Ashford gestured with a flourish. Do join us, won't you? The jester has been practicing a new trick just for you. The jester bowed deeply, his bells tinkling ominously. As Maria and Luis were pushed toward the table, their eyes met the jester's for a fleeting moment. In that instant, they saw not mirth, but madness lurking beneath. And they knew the joke was on them. The candles on the table flickered, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. One by one, the empty chairs surrounding them filled, not with guests, but with specters, the missing townsfolk, their faces pale, their eyes vacant. They were not here of their own will. The feast was not a celebration. It was a trap. The house had brought them all here, stolen their souls one by one. Maria and Louis screamed, their voices echoing in the vast hall. They fought against invisible bonds, their struggles growing weaker with each passing moment. The house had claimed them. It would add their names to the list, their faces to the gallery of stolen souls. The last thing they saw was the jester. His bells silent now, his face twisted into a grotesque mask of glee. The house had won again. And as the morning light crept through the grimy windows, revealing the remnants of the feast, and the vacant stare of the stolen souls, the true horror of it all sunk in. The house was not just a house. It was a tomb. A tomb that lured its victims with false promises of joy, feasting and fellowship, only to trap them forever in its insatiable hunger. Now, in the wake of their disappearance, the town of Oak Haven was faced with a chilling question. Was this the end? Or was the house still hungry for more? The house won't stop until the whole town is at its table. Smash that like button. Share this nightmare with your bravest friends. And subscribe so you don't miss the horrors yet to come. What would you do if you found yourself at the haunted house's feast? And in the comments, tell us which character you'd save from the house. Who would you bring home? Let's talk about it. Until next time, stay ready. For the house never stops hunting.